This is HighIntensityBusiness.com with Lawrence Neal, helping you achieve your health and fitness goals. Become a great personal trainer and build your high-intensity strength training business.
Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to HighIntensityBusiness.com. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about CAR.O.L, and those of you who listen to the podcast regularly will be familiar with the podcast I've done with Rahul and Ratner and Tom in relation to the CAR.O.L business and the CAR.O.L bike, which is very popular right now in sort of the high intensity training / smart gym spaces and beyond. And the focus of this podcast is to talk about consumer trends, talk about new research, and also talk about an incredible opportunity for you, the HIT studio owner or HIT business owner, who is looking to generate revenue now in a couple of different ways. So stay tuned to the mid part of this in order to be updated on the opportunity in detail. And to talk about all of this stuff, I've got CAR.O.L's sales director, Rahul Bernath, returning to the podcast. Rahul, thanks for joining me again.
Thank you for having me. It's good to talk to you again, Lawrence.
Likewise, thanks for taking the time. It's been a while since we spoke, and I'm just excited to talk to you again and check in on how this whole insane, crazy situation is affecting you and CAR.O.L. What are you seeing? So do you want to we just start there? I'd love to hear, what are you seeing in terms of consumer response? Because I think this is really interesting to my audience and myself in terms of understanding how buying behavior is changing.
I mean, it definitely is changing, and we've seen it, I'd even say we've seen it accelerate. So I think that in-home gyms and kind of, let's call it just private exercising programs have become more and more popular. And you see that with, of course, these other companies in the space just having explosive growth. And it's not just happened to us, but everybody who's selling in-home stuff, whether it be, just resistance bands or anything that people can do outside of the communal space, seems to have absolutely rocketed. And I'm sure that's not going to come as a surprise to most people now that people are getting conscious about this disease this virus that's now swept the land. People kind of want to stay at home, and in most cases they're being forced to. But what we were talking about just before the podcast started recording, and it was really interesting that you'd mentioned you'd seen some places kind of get back to normal life. And I found it really interesting that some of the partners that I work with are saying, yeah, I'm reopening my doors. And it actually seems to be the case that people are coming back in. And even I've heard some people who are talking to me and my sales team about buying CAR.O.L bikes, wanting to know more, saying, actually, maybe I'm going to use the one at my local studio instead. Now that things are opening back up again, I'm a little bit less scared of the virus. So I'm definitely interested to see what's going to happen over the next few months. Definitely that was an unpredicted turn in what I would have thought was something that pretty much everybody could have foreseen.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a moment, because I'm really optimistic and excited about the future for the studio business for a whole host of reasons. Obviously the big box gyms are really struggling right now. Several of those are probably going to go out of business, or even when they reopen, I just think they'll really struggle due to an aversion to people wanting to be around large crowds, especially sweaty areas. Large amounts of sweat from large groups of people, and probably also a lack of kind of personal connection. I spoke recently with Luke Carlson, and he mentioned how he's been a member of a big health club, a luxury chain, for a very long time, and they don't know. He's been a member for a decade. They don't know who he is. They don't know his name, and I think right now with people coming out of homes, they're looking for personal connection. They're looking for people to know them by name and to treat them like a human being and make them feel special. And I'm digressing. I'm going all over the place here, but other values that are really important are trust and safety right now, based on the latest consumer data I've seen. And the studio business is so well positioned because it's a small studio. There's low exposure to groups of people. It's typically one-on-one or small group. In our space and high intensity training, and with whether that's strength training or using CAR.O.L, it's infrequent, relatively speaking. and it just ticks all the boxes. It's local. People are really buying local business right now as well. They want to support the local community. So I feel like I'm actually, on one side of it, I'm surprised because I thought people were really fearful. So I am surprised about a strong return to studio. And just for the record, every single hit business owner I've spoken to who's reopened is having a great time. They're having a very, very high percentage of clients return to studio, which is, in fact, there's a couple who have a waiting list. They're doing better now than they were pre-crisis, which is surprising. And we have to keep our feet on the ground. It might just be an initial surge, and it might die down a little bit. And so we still have to build a strategy and market with that in mind. We can't take our foot off the gas. But it is surprising. But then, as I said, the other half of my kind of perspective on this is that, well, actually, maybe it's not a surprise because, as I said, hit businesses are so well positioned for this time that this is perhaps exactly how things would go. So that's my 2 cents.
I mean, it's interesting. A friend of mine who, I guess, runs in that world, and not the fitness world, actually in the political sphere. He said that top governments now, their challenge is to convince people that they can now go about their daily lives. And part of the lockdown easing strategies are just as much about making people, for example, in the UK now, you can visit friends up to 6 people in a park. I mean, the guys who came up with that policy, they're not idiots. They know that people are gonna, there will be blurred lines around that, and 2 meters, 1 meter, 3 meters. They know this, right? And so, what I heard, right? So I emphasize that part that actually the governments are saying, look, pretty much that, of course, coronavirus is not going to go away. It's now a part of daily life, and maybe we'll get it to the point where the likelihood of you contracting this virus is the same as you contracting any other potentially fatal illness that, if you had a pre-existing health condition, would unfortunately put you in a seriously life-threatening situation, right? That said, they're now trying to convince the economy that they can go back in. So by easing us into daily life, people are kind of getting over that initial scare, saying, oh my gosh, I can't go anywhere because I'm going to die if I go outside, to, okay, now things are easing back into it. If all of a sudden they just let the whole thing go back to normal, of course, they run the risk of having a resurgence in cases, in which case then everybody's just as scared as they were before. And then next time they try to ease it out, it's not going to work. And then if they just let everybody go back to normal right now, I don't think they said there's not been enough of a conversation about getting back to normal life that people would be able to just, kind of reinvigorate the economy to go back to where it was. People need time to kind of boot up again. These studios need time to, and this leads nicely to what I'm about, my next point I wanted to make, but, people need time to reopen their business. Yeah. They've now been used to operating 3-4 months with a strangled revenue stream, let's say, and they've had to adapt, and now they have to readapt back to what it was. And so you can't just flick the switch just like that. And I think that the point that you touched on earlier kind of nicely touches on what I'm about to say, that I think I agree. Studios are well positioned for this transition. I don't think it's the case that it's just an initial rah-rah, and then in 2 weeks' time, all of the people who are on those waiting lists for those hit studios are now going to die off. I don't know what is going to happen, but I suspect that's not going to be the case. And the reason I say studios are well positioned, because they can adapt and change to the new landscape far better than these big giants can.
Definitely.
The big giants are stuck with red tape, and it's going to be difficult. I mean, just think about in the supermarket chains here in the UK, that now at those self-checkouts, they have those barriers which stop you from sneezing on the guy next to you. But it took them like 2 months to put that up. You think, how hard can that be to stick up a barrier? But it's because we know the corporate process that they had to go through to get that, right? So if you look at some of the big chains, and even big chain can be in like 30 or above, it's just not that easy to implement these changes that they want. And if they have a well-established business model, with a well-established clientele, it's just harder for them to adapt. I'm not saying they won't. I'm not saying they can't. And I want them to, because ultimately we want people to be going to the gym and being healthy and fit and active, just like the world has enjoyed for decades prior. But the young guys, the smaller guys, the high intensity business owners, those guys, I think, are in a really, really unique opportunity to kind of take Darwinism at its finest, right? And say those who can change the quickest will survive and change and go for it, and because you're right, people, and it goes back to what I was saying about the strategy of easing it in. People are going to be thinking, I'm not sure that I do want to lift that barbell that's just been sneezed on by 20 people prior. Maybe I want to wear some gloves, or maybe I want to do something a little bit more safe. So if I maybe going towards like layouts of the gym, or using special equipment that does this, that, and the other, or having different protocols that can allow for this, hygienic exercise would be better. And then maybe the reason why, now I'm just really shooting from the hip, but maybe the reason why high intensity businesses are working is because you're only in there for a short time. So you can only, if you sneeze all the time, you're only sneezing 20 times. Okay, but that's less than if you did an hour. So in and out kind of thing, maybe that works. I don't know.
Yeah, it's there's a whole list of things that I think those that have reopened and been successful are doing. And I talk to Luke a lot, obviously, who's the founder and CEO of Discover Strength, and I really admire him and his team. And they always have their finger on the pulse, and they always have very clear plans in terms of what they're going to do. So I've been collaborating with him a lot through this time because I wanted to obviously deliver as much value to my audience as possible to help them. And I just, there was no better person than Luke to do that with. And one of the things he was saying they're doing at DS is they're cleaning every machine, I think this is right, before every use in front of the customer. And that's really important from an optics perspective. They're telling, they are really over the top with this. They're telling the customer what they're doing. They're wiping down all the upholstery, all the handles. They're doing it for every machine. And it consumes more time. But just from a safety and trust perspective, it's so important right now and that's going to directly impact retention and sales conversions, So I think it's it's a fantastic idea. And listeners can go back and listen to episode 270 with Luke, which is all about the complete recovery plan for the fitness studio, if you want to learn more about that. But now you raise a really interesting point about agility in the smaller business. I hadn't necessarily thought about that. And I was thinking about local supermarkets here in Galway and Ireland, where I'm based. And I was actually kind of impressed by the speed of which they got stuff mobilized, but I don't know, maybe I'm maybe as a selection bias, I don't know, and to be honest, it's not like I'm going to the supermarket every day, so to me it seemed like, they did that quick, but actually quite a few weeks went by perhaps. And actually I can tell you they do not have dividers between self-checkouts. I'm pretty sure of that, so they're behind the curve on that one. There you go. and this is the other thing, right? I don't know, we don't probably have time, or it's maybe not that relevant to talk about our personal views about the virus and what the data is saying about just how serious we should be considering it and all of that stuff. But I think that's almost irrelevant when you're a business owner. You just have to think about what's in the mind of the consumer. And from my perspective, what I've been seeing in the data is the customer is pretty fearful right now and pretty anxious. You just have to factor that into your entire strategy. And see it from their perspective, I think. So what do you, so you guys have, from what I remember speaking to Ratna, she was saying there's been a real surge in obviously people buying bikes for their homes. That's kind of obvious. I suppose that was going to happen. But what can you elaborate on what you're seeing there and what in terms of like consumer buying behavior? Is there anything you kind of want to add that you're seeing?
She's right. We have seen, I perhaps underplayed it. The market has exploded, and people really are investing heavily in this stuff. I don't really know what else to say in terms of that. I think that there is a lot more opportunity in the in-home workout market for sure, and I think there's also just fueling more insight into what actually healthy living is, because it's not actually just in-home exercise that people are now buying. It's like they're stuck at home, so people like lifestyle is. I've also seen articles and even just people writing online, columnists are saying that they've seen in their communities that people are just being more conscious about their daily choices and the lifestyle that they construct. And even read one guy says that She said that, as actually a lady who wrote this, she said that uh, the party lifestyle of big cities is actually incredibly destructive, and that more and more young people have realized this and are now dedicating more time to their health. Not saying that all of those guys are now buying CAR.O.L bikes. A lot of those, especially the younger guys, they're probably buying those resistance bands and those in-home press-up machines or whatever. But they're definitely changing. So again, it goes back to what I'm saying. Those who can adapt and those who can ride on this wave that's about to come of changing consumer behavior, let's say, and just general attitudes towards their own health and lifestyle choices, I think there's a great opportunity to make the most of, and definitely we're going to be trying to.
Yeah, there's a good point you raised there, which I forgot to mention, which is that perhaps people are realizing they need to build a robust body, they need to be defensible, and obviously, because a lot of those who like you say are at risk, have pre-existing conditions or senior, are realizing that, and are actually that maybe that's driving the demand for the HIIT studio business, as it's a safest place for them to actually obtain those results that they want. So maybe that's playing. So it's multifactorial, isn't it? There's a whole bunch of things at play here potentially. So before we got started, you were talking about some new research around the CAR.O.L. I'd love to hear what's the new stuff that's coming out. What are you seeing?
Yeah, so we have actually seen a couple of really interesting things. I think, now I can't say where this has come from because it's not been published yet, but the research is pretty conclusive. And so it's just a matter of time. Yeah, exactly. It's just a matter of time before we will broadcast it. And for everybody listening, if you do follow us or subscribe to our newsletter, then you will definitely be notified when it comes out. Essentially, these researchers have found that riding the intense ride on CAR.O.L, which is our 220-second sprint protocol, doing that just 2 times a week is not actually showing any slower increases in your cardiovascular fitness than if you were to do 3 or 4 rides a week. Meaning that people, in the context of this discussion, Lawrence, meaning that people who have a CAR.O.L bike in their studio, they don't need to tell people they need to do it like 3-4 times a week to get those benefits. They can now realistically say you can do it with 2, and we can track your progress and prove that you're getting fitter. And for those of you who are not, then we go back to 3 and 4. But the research is now showing that is actually a meaningful recommendation to tell people. I thought that was very interesting. And on the back of what they found that actually, if you're looking to increase cardiometabolic health, then actually doing more rides may be better. So, in things like, so it's not just your fitness, I guess, that factors into that later metric, but you have all kinds of other things that just generally overall paint a picture of your health relating to heart-related ailments or risk of contracting, such like diabetes, stroke, heart disease, et cetera, et cetera. And when you do more rides a week, it looks like they're showing that other biomarkers seem to be actually additionally helped as a result of doing those extra exercises. So if you do want to tell people that they should come in and do more rides a week, then there's definitely a reason to do so. And I thought that was really interesting. It's not something that we knew before. I had actually thought before that 3 rides a week was the minimum effective dose. It's all you need to do. So now that seems to have dropped down to 2, which is obviously really awesome. And just, I think, goes to prove even more what I was saying before, that, there's no biological need to run around for 25 miles in one straight shot. Yeah. And that, no wonder then people like literally people die doing that, or they have heart inflammation, they keel over, etc. I'm not telling any of your audience something that they didn't already know, but that doing it twice a week gives you those benefits, just shows that your body is actually finally doing something it was really designed to do. Yeah, and this is actually really activating those survival pathways that have been put there for a reason, and that we just don't really activate very often in daily life, if ever. And certainly those longer forms of exercise don't do. So I found that very interesting, and I thought that it really had a commercial implication of what that means for studio owners or even private in-home users. Yeah. Another thing that we found.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
It's another thing that we found was that the EPOC, or the afterburn, it's known by, has been significantly, riders really do experience an aggressive afterburn after one intense ride for 48 hours. And research is showing that this is actually proven to be a more effective fat loss tool than, what your typical usual suspects would be if that was your objective. And again, that is something that has a commercial implication of what we do. And that afterburn, that came out very recently as well. And they were even surprised as to why that was the case. And they actually attributed it, and it's written here, and I'm actually looking at the paper right now. They're saying that it's because of the AI personalization, because they had actually thought that the Wingate sprints, that's the type of sprint that we use on the CAR.O.L bike, you would get a very pronounced afterburn anyway by doing that. And generally with HIIT training, it's very commonly associated to afterburn, which is absolutely the case. But the AI personalization actually exceeded their expectations of what it'd be able to deliver for the effect for afterburn. And so they were even saying, if you're going to do a HIIT workout for cardio and for fat loss, you actually should probably do a CAR.O.L ride, because it knows you better than any other equipment can do, and hence you're going to just burn a lot of fat.
So you mentioned some of the two findings there about minimum effective dose versus cardiometabolic health, and the latter being that high frequency may be beneficial. Does the protocol change though? For instance, are you doing the exactly same protocols you would do twice a week, but you're doing it more frequently, or is it more nuanced than that?
Sorry. I get asked this question a lot, and particularly by our growing base of studio owners who are like, what should I recommend my clients? Like how often should they come in, And the reason I frame it in that context is because a lot of guys are going to be thinking, well, I can't tell someone to come in like every day in the week. That kind of goes against the reason that I tell people to come to my business in the first place, was like come once or twice a week, right? And which is why I think that the two exercise a week is really interesting, because then that kind of fits more in. The 3 a week for some people is a bit awkward. It was like, 3 is just a little bit too much, too more often than I want them to come in. 2, it would be perfect. So it seems to be like we've now proven that we can meet them on their ground and actually further strengthen the synergies of a CAR.O.L in a HIIT studio owner's operation, because it actually would more align with their ethos of bringing people in only once or twice a week, and they can still get those benefits. In terms of what I recommend to people, it's like, so you have that context of what people can actually recommend realistically. Then you have, okay, let's just remove that practical element out of the recommendation. And then we just say, from a theoretical perspective, you could say, just do 2 to 3 rides a week, and you will get all of those increases in VO2 max that you're looking for. If you want to increase your cardiometabolic health and just want to keep driving down that risk of getting a heart attack, then do 4 or 5 rides a week of the intense ride. If you want to burn fat as quickly as possible, do 2 intense rides a week and a fat burn if you can. And I say this stuff because there are different objectives that people have, and there are nuanced ways to approach it. And even then, within that, you have different body types and different things that people like to do, which they can get away with, right? So it's a really tough question to ask, because there are almost an infinite number of ways to skin the cat. But those 3 ways that I said to you just now seem to be the most popular and the most reliably effective across the board.
Yeah, I love that, because I think that fits really nicely with my audience, because they'll be glad to know, obviously, that they can incorporate once or twice a week protocol, if their general sort of average session frequency is twice a week, because they know that's going to get great results. But if they have a customer who's like, I just love using this and I want to use it 5 to 6 times a week, and there's evidence to support that's efficacious, and it doesn't obviously affect things like recovery too badly, then they can offer that and know that they're doing something that's not going to necessarily detract from the client's results, so they can still serve that need. So I think there's more flexibility, like you're saying. Yeah,
and that's really cool. And I was just thinking, like, you could even have someone who's like, oh yeah, I want to increase my fitness. Great, come into the studio twice a week. I really want to reduce my risk of, or I really want to improve my cardiometabolic health. Yeah, cool. Then maybe you should think about getting one for your home. Oh, excellent. Then I'm going to ride it to my heart's content, or come into the business every day. Go for it, because you're almost like a special case. You're someone who's really trying to get as healthy as possible, because you've maybe even at risk or concerned about something. So I think they'd be typically more willing to invest their either time or potentially even money to actually combat those issues. But it's interesting. I'm reading something here from, again, one of the guys who's researching CAR.O.L. By now we have loads of these people who've taken a scientific interest to the product. And saying, so one journalist actually asked the guy, said, if I do more exercises, right, what is the relation between adrenal fatigue and the excess stress equals more cortisol equals more damage, and doing a, in inverted commas, really stressful exercise like a CAR.O.L ride? And he said, which I thought was interesting, is that commonly people confuse acute stress with chronic stress.
Mm-hmm.
And the adrenal fatigue stems from the chronic elevations of cortisol, from a combination of overtraining, inadequate recovery, and of course insufficient sleep. That's the usual suspect, and some other factors. But what's interesting is that an acute and natural increase in cortisol from a single exercise session is not actually going to damage recovery, and it's not actually shown to have any adverse effects that people are worried about and do typically associate with elevated cortisol or adrenal fatigue, let's say. So it's interesting that actually this type of exercise, again, going back to what I was saying, and this is how people were designed to exercise, it doesn't actually damage people in the way that they associate damage with other forms of exercise.
Fascinating. So like you say, the context is really important. So they're probably got nothing to worry about from a chronic stress perspective if they're getting sufficient sleep, they're looking after their nutrition, and they're not going to go and do a triathlon that weekend, because like in the context where someone's doing, 5 or 6 CAR.O.L bike sessions and then goes and does some really hardcore endurance activity on the weekend, then you're probably going to be pretty stressed and going to need a lot of recovery. So the context in terms of activity decisions, but also genotype is going to be is all going to play into this, isn't it? So that's why you have to kind of do an N of 1, don't you, and look at how you're progressing and how these things are being affected over time as a user of your device. So that was kind of a good opportunity, actually, just to give a quick overview as well of the bike, because we haven't really done that in this episode because we've done that so much before. So I'll just
everybody already knows.
But no, I'll take this opportunity because I know that if people, I want to make sure that everyone knows where to go after this. So if you want to dive into a podcast, the first podcast that me and Rahul did about a year ago, where he talks more about the science around the product and also the business opportunity, go to episode 205. It's called Rahul Bernath, Is the CAR.O.L Bike a Good Fit for Your HIIT Business? And then after that, I did an episode with Tom Toombs, who's the founder of Smarter Exercise. That's episode 246. And that was actually a case study on how he's generating more revenue with CAR.O.L HIIT bikes in his business. And then more recently, I spoke with Ratna Singh, who's the founder of CAR.O.L, and we talked about an affiliate opportunity, which we're actually going to be talking about again on this podcast because it's relevant to the situation we're in right now. That's over episode 260. So if you really want to get a lot of information on CAR.O.L, maybe you're thinking about becoming an avid user, or you think about buy one for your home, or you want one for your studio, then I encourage you to listen to all these podcasts, and I think you'll get a really good understanding. So Rahul, do you think it's a good opportunity now to talk about the Pay It Forward campaign? Do you want to kind of outline that for the audience?
Yeah. So thank you, Lawrence. So the Pay It Forward campaign it's essentially a way for us to thank the people who've been so loyal to us and working so well with us in the past, and to kind of help them in their time of need, basically. So, actually I was watching the news. This is ages ago now. I was watching the news, and lockdown is imminent. Everything, the whole world is going into shutdown, and more than I was worried about my or anybody's health that I know, I was worried about actually the economy and what small businesses were going to do when, like I said earlier in the podcast, essentially their business has just been strangled. Yeah, it's funny. Even have a pub owner, a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, owns a pub, and when the Prime Minister of the UK, when he announces lockdown, the first word he says was that pubs will be shut. And then the guy calls me and he goes, "Why did he have to say pubs? Yeah, why couldn't he have said something else?" But even that rather funny conversation, actually, I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, what about all of the people who work with us and own CAR.O.L bikes and now can't have people go into their studio? Yeah, and that's going to be really damaging for them. And so we actually were already working on a bigger campaign to get the awareness out, to reward, NA or key workers who work in the medical, police, whatever, emergency service professions, to kind of give them something back as well. I thought we should definitely extend that to like the people I think are like really vulnerable to this situation. And so the Pay It Forward campaign, we offer the commercial clients, so people who own CAR.O.L bikes and who are our commercial partner resellers, they can get $500 for every CAR.O.L bike that they manage to sell or that someone they refer to ends up buying. Because the idea is that it's going to then, if they sell 2 or 3 of these things a month, which actually is not far removed from what most of these guys do anyway before the coronavirus hit us. So it actually proved like selling CAR.O.L bikes seemed to be a side revenue stream, but something that actually was worthwhile for most people to do, and that they did anyway. Like it seemed to be that their customers would have those conversations with their studio owners. And as you were saying, Lawrence, like, oh yeah, I love coming in here, but I want to do more. I just want to buy one for my home. I'll go buy one on the CAR.O.L website and you'll get a small like commission. And that seemed to actually happen for anybody. So this seems like a no-brainer. We just up the amount of commission that people can get, because if they sell 3 bikes, let's say, then that's enough to pay for their utilities for the month, kind of thing. So at least that's one headache off their shoulders. They sell 5, 6, then maybe they can pay some staff wages. So it seemed to be something that was like, I thought it was a nice way to kind of not ask too much from people, to just allow them to do something they're pretty much already doing. Wouldn't take too much work for them to do while they're obviously applying for those government grants and whatever. Because I know that their time is tough, and I know that these people have got really big worries on their plate right now. So that's kind of the idea. And actually, when we launched it a few months ago, we ended up in the first week, actually, we paid out like $3,000. And then ever since then, I think we've paid just under 10 grand, and spread over some people. So that's it. That's quite a few utility bills that we've paid for. And that's really awesome. And, it's not really, like I was saying to you before the podcast, Lawrence, it's not really it's not a money-making exercise for us. Like I said, one of your savvy listeners will quickly do the maths, but it's under 10 grand. It's like, so we're not talking like that many bikes. Like, yeah, sure. It's more that we've helped the studio, the monetary value, and that we've helped the people. It's more the success marker is how many people we've helped, not many bikes we've sold, because quite frankly, we're selling loads of bikes just online because people are panicking and needing in-home health equipment. So they're buying from us anyway. It's not really about that. It's like I said, helping some people who really need a lifeline.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for going into detail on that. And we're going to be talking about obviously all the details around that now, and how people can take advantage of the opportunity. Because I think, as we were saying before we got recording, studios are reopening around the world, which is great, and having a great time, which I'm really pleased to hear. But there is obviously still a number, depending on where you are in the world, a lot of countries are still locked down. Many of the states in the US are still on lockdown, and many studios won't open till maybe June, July, August in some cases, maybe later. And so for those studios, particularly, they need to generate revenue, and I understand why some of them have decided not to participate in the virtual personal training world. I think that may be a mistake for those that have decided not to. But if it's not a clear, congruent fit with their business model or their, what makes them unique and things like that, then I kind of understand that, and it's a bit more nuanced. But anyway, I think, this is a time to be creative and to find ways to generate revenue for your business. And if you decided not to do something like virtual training, then you need to figure out what else can we sell in order to generate revenue. And so I thought this was absolutely perfect for the business owner who was like, I don't want to do virtual, or maybe they wanted to add to their virtual revenue stream and wanted to generate some income. And obviously there's other things they can do as well. Maybe online coaching in terms of more holistic coaching, helping people with nutrition and lifestyle and more holistically, or other affiliate deals they might decide to do with other brands. But I think it's quite alien to a lot of my audience. They're not used to forming those kinds of partnerships. And so hence why I thought this was just such a great opportunity for people. And what I particularly like about what you're doing and why I just enjoy partnering with you guys is you offer so much marketing support. So let's just outline this, right? So if someone signs up, and obviously they have to qualify. If you're not a studio, you're not probably going to qualify for the opportunity because it won't really make sense. But if they do, then can you talk about the things that you can do to help them succeed?
Absolutely. And I think it's a good point about the qualification, because unless they are a studio or somebody who needs it, it is exactly that we're not using this as a money-making exercise. It's a genuine way to help. So we're not just paying any Tom, Dick, and Harry $500 on some aggressive commission just to get bikes out the door. That's absolutely not the case. But with the marketing support, and actually it's a nice way to offer a new broadcast, because we are just about to launch our new affiliate platform, and that will also be for our commercial partners, our resellers, essentially. And this is a portal where people can log in. They can access all of the research, new research, research that's been distilled into layman's terms so that they can communicate it easily to their clients. It'll have all of our latest digital assets. It'll have all of our latest videos, news, articles, everything that comes out about CAR.O.L, it's going to be there. And we are going to be offering as much education support as we can through that portal. And in that portal, we're also going to have different deals that we're running that people can apply to be a part of, that they can apply to be an affiliate for. And of course, our resellers as well. And finally, it's just really cool that in that platform, then people can actually, it'll almost be like a little forum that people can talk to each other, engage. It's actually going to be a little community that we've got going on there. And I think it's going to be a really vibrant place for people to access that support. And up until that launches, and with Lawrence, we're talking that's going to launch in a few days. Up until then, what we do is we offer all of that stuff. We do give people like brochures, print materials. We do give people the research in layman's terms, and in particular in layman's terms, because a lot of that stuff is just quite frankly not written in English. And so people need to, it's useful for people to understand how they should, even the people who understand it, it's not always that easy to understand how to communicate that to somebody who has just no clue what you're talking about. And so we offer a lot of that help. And then we also include people on our website, if they want to, include people on our website as a place that they can go try the CAR.O.L bike. So if people don't want to buy a CAR.O.L bike, or they are looking to subscribe to a studio, then we have a place on our website that they can just look for the nearest one to them. And also we've been known to consciously drive traffic to the place. So I remember this time last year, I went to the biohacking conference in Beverly Hills, and I sent a broadcast to all of our partners saying, look, we're going to be there. If you want to send us some flyers or anything, we can have them printed out, and we'll put them on our booth as a place. So if people want to come in, learn more about the CAR.O.L, like I said, don't want to buy one, or are interested in learning more about a place that's local to them, we can say, yeah, this one's the closest to you. Here you go check it out. And actually we were able to drive some traffic to some of the studios that were in that local area, which is really cool. So we do kind of go out of our way as well to drive traffic to these places.
So that sort of seeded that idea, did it, to actually create some sort of directory where people could find studios, drive traffic? I mean, that's a win-win innovation, isn't it? That makes a lot of sense. That's cool. So let's just walk this through, right? Let's kind of role play this. So if I'm a hit studio, I sign up and I qualify, or a fitness studio of any kind, and I want to jump on this. I want to sell CAR.O.L bikes to my end users who are stuck at home, or maybe those guys who are just, even after lockdown, they're just not comfortable. And then obviously there's going to be a cohort of people like that. I know nothing about, let's just say I know nothing about marketing. I don't know how to do Facebook ads or graphics or emails. Like, how would you guys be able to help with that stuff? I mean, maybe it's like you say in the forum, the affiliate forum that you're going to be opening up, maybe that will be the solution to a lot of this, but yeah, just keen to get your view.
So if you sign up to the platform, whether you qualify for this pay it forward or not, there'll be plenty of other things which you could apply for. And even some things that you don't need to apply for, you can just go ahead and promote. And in most cases, there will either be some kind of tracking link. So for our more technologically savvy audience, they will know that you can have like literal pieces of code that you can embed on your website, and if people go to our shop from there, then you get the payout. And so you can either use that method, or you can use the more well-known method of a coupon code. And when people use this coupon code, the affiliate platform will, or on that portal, you will see when it's been used, and you will see by who, etc. And then so you'll be able to you'll be able to see how well it's performing. Now, in terms of advertising and support from a technical perspective, we will give pre-approved ads that have been designed for platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want to do, and even websites. Yeah. So, for example, our Instagram posts, they are of a certain aspect ratio, have a certain pixel quality, and have also just some design elements that are good for the platform Instagram, because what you post on Instagram may not necessarily be good for what you post on Facebook. There are two different audiences. They go to the platform for two different things. And so obviously it's a misconception that you just put some ads out across the board and jobs are good in. And so we will have those different digital assets laid out. It's a really good point, and actually not something I've thought of, and now something we may implement, Lauren, so thanks. We may actually implement some advice on how to set up Facebook ads and how to advertise online for those people who would be interested in getting to know that more, because we definitely have the resources to do that, and it would not take us a lot of time to put some stuff up on our best practice. So I'd definitely look into that and see if that's possible. But it would be the sort of thing that would appear on the forum kind of thing, yeah? You'd be able to pick each other's brains. How much should I be charging for this car ride? Oh, yeah, well, he did this, he did that kind of thing. So
yeah, I mean, cool. I think it's great that you're doing that, because I know, as someone who I absolutely hate anything related to graphics and media. Like, it is not my strength in business at all. And Canva is my absolute savior. Canva.com. Are you familiar with that?
No, I don't. No.
So it's just an online tool for graphic design. It's like it's just graphic design made simple for people that are rubbish at it like me, and it's just browser based. And I used it for ages, and then eventually they just sucked me into their paid program, and it was like something like $100 for the year, so it was like a no brainer. And it's just great because it just makes it really easy to create graphics. So anyway, with that said, I really empathize with the studio owner who's not au fait with online marketing and online graphics and all that kind of stuff. And I know that many of them need that support in order to get this off the ground, because it's all good and well hearing, oh, this is a great opportunity to sell a bike and earn $500 per sale, but how do I actually sell that? How do I actually reach my audience with an effective offer, right? And so just to reiterate, if you decide to sign up, rest assured you'll be getting lots of support to help you actually execute on the campaign effectively and actually make sales. And just on that, Rahul, what are you seeing? I don't know, you might not have an answer to this. I'm kind of getting you on the spot, but what are you seeing in terms of tactics from studios that are effective in selling the bikes to home users?
That's a really good question. And I'm actually just thinking there are a couple of studios who clearly lead the pack in how often they sell. They give fantastic demos. They have and really, I think where the commercial partner has maybe in the context of coronavirus, that's relevant, but where maybe once a lockdown is eased is something to bring up, that they have a really unique position where they can actually invite someone to their place and show them how to use the machine. And let's say someone lives like 30 miles away, so they're not going to come in, but they can spare a Saturday afternoon to come try it out. They have a really unique position where they can give them a great time, sell that bike, and make that sale. Okay, so like I said, we've got this platform that's going to have promotions running all the time. So even once Pay It Forward is over, which by the way will be at the end of the coronavirus, kind of when the economy is back to normal, when that's over, there's going to be plenty of other things for people to jump in on and be able to use their showroom as the demos. Until then, there's actually one guy who's managed to sell loads of his units. He did video demonstrations. So he'd actually like kind of jumping in on the virtual thing. He would dive in and offer, again, what I think is cool, a almost an unbiased third party perspective on like, look, I went through the same. I'm also a CAR.O.L customer. I went through the same journey that you did, and yeah, sure, I'm telling you about the CAR.O.L bike because I like it and I'm evangelizing it, but not necessarily not first and foremost because I'm making money off it. It's just because I think it's awesome and I want you to have it. And again, going to back what I said about why this makes a lot of sense for people is because they actually have the audience already at their fingertips. And even if it's not as big as they want it to be, it wouldn't take long to get big. So with a bit of that extra virtual help that we can offer, or now that we will, Lawrence, I should say, and with some additional resources on how to actually advertise it, they just grow the network in their local catchment area, and then they can schedule those one-on-one personalized things because their market is much smaller than ours is. I mean, we address the whole of the USA and Europe, so it's not really, it's a bit harder for me to make those deep personal connections one-on-one with everybody. But I guess studio owners can, because realistically their markets are much smaller.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking that, again, many of my audience not that savvy with tech. They might be emailing customers directly with this opportunity, and we're not even talking about email database here. We're talking about one by one emailing, right? I had a conversation with a client of mine recently, and he was explaining to me that he emails all of his clients one by one. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's wonderful. like, don't get me wrong. I was like, that's wonderful that you're creating those personal, and he might laugh if he listens to this and he'll know who he is. That's great that he's building those personal connections, but you can be so much more obviously effective if you can do drip campaigns and automate certain email shots to your entire base at once and tailor those.
I mean, even if I was really going to put my like businessman hat on, I would say go and hire some like college grad on a 1-2 day a week basis, like part-time thing, because there a lot of these people will also be looking for work, and get them to run someone who's like, it doesn't have to be world-changing digital savvy, just someone who knows how to use the platform, knows the general best practice, and can put the stuff up and to communicate with people in the local area. You can set those targetings that you only advertise to people who realistically can make it to your studio, who have some kind of relevant connection to you. I mean, of course, you can go as big as you want, but that's honestly, if I was in that position, that's what I would do. Pay someone half-time, give it a 2-month, give it like a 1-month trial period. If you sell 2 CAR.O.L bikes, then that guy's paid himself back. If you sell 3, great, you made a bit of business. If you said 4, 5, that's really awesome. And then I would also, this is a piece of free advice for people. We put a chatbot on our website. Yeah, and you can get chatbot technology online, and in some cases even free. And you put the chatbot on your website. You would not believe how many people have been talking to us through the chatbot. You would not believe. And I was looking online. I was so surprised. And it just goes. People are like, when they're interested, and this could even be CAR.O.L aside, even just people who have their studios and advertising online, come check out, because a lot of the stuff they'll be offering will be pretty off the wall stuff or revolutionary to some degree. People will have loads of questions, and maybe they don't want to necessarily email, phone call, but would like to maybe chat to like a robot that could answer some questions quickly then and there on their cell phone or on their laptop before they decide to venture in to the studio. And the chatbot actually did have a huge impact on the amount of engagement out of customers. And you can also program those things so they can answer by themselves, so you don't actually have to pay someone to answer. So I thought maybe if someone's interested, that might be something cool they could add.
Yeah, I love the idea. I actually did use a chatbot myself for a while, but I didn't know if I was using it in the right way, and it wasn't that productive for me. But really? I just thought you just gave me an idea there. I might actually add one to the site, and I don't know if I'll regret this, but I might add it and just say chat with Lawrence and just like see how. I know, right? That could be risky, but yeah. I'm not. I think in a world where people are all moving online with their business and becoming less personal, it can be very powerful to combine these tools and innovations with a personal touch.
They are becoming less personal. They are.
Yeah. I mean, this is part of my business. Is all about providing personal coaching and you getting personal connection with me, and me being active in my membership in the forum privately to help people. And I want to maintain that because I know that's a powerful differentiator in a way I can deliver results. So I was literally going to have like chat with Lawrence as like a chat bot feature to see if that could help grow the business. So yeah, we'll see.
And
we'll see.
a lot of people who come into a lot of our clientele, because even like studio owners share a lot of the same customer base as CAR.O.L, which is why it's so easy for a lot of studio owners just to kind of sell a CAR.O.L bike on the side because they're having the conversation anyway. Like a lot of our clients are like the 45, 50-year-old plus, yeah. And I actually find it's interesting. I find the guys who are 35 out of our customers, they're typically the ones who talk to us on chatbot. 45, 50 plus, they're typically the ones who actually end up phoning us. And it's just a funny little story that I've got a cousin and he's 15, and he was talking to his friend on Snapchat. And I said to him, maybe I'm of that age, or I'm the last of the generation who kind of prefers the phone call. And I said to him, I was like, why don't you just call that person or text him? And he goes, no. And he said, oh no, it's a girl. And he said, no. If I phoned her, that'd be way too serious. And if I texted her, I think that she'd also think that I'm being a bit too serious. Like Snapchat is now the way to communicate. I thought, wow, texting someone means that you have some kind of intention. I thought, geez, man. I mean,
it's funny. So there's almost like gradients, right? So it's like an Instagram DM is like super impersonal versus a phone call. Like it's mad. Like how there's almost like there could be like 20 gradients of levels of messaging. You know, But yeah, it's bonkers. But yeah, I mean, I love a chatbot myself. Like if I want to get something resolved through like Amazon or any one of these online companies, I'm straight on. If they've got a live chatbot and I can get it done there and then I'm all about that. So I think that's a powerful feature. Okay, so just on the opportunity, my dog is rolling around next to me and wants a tummy rub so badly. It's quite distracting. So just talking about this opportunity for the Pay It Forward campaign, where are we sending people? Because obviously we need to make sure that people know where to go to sign up.
So they can still go to the, I can't remember what the URL was. Is the carolfit.ai.com/pay-it-forward? Yeah, that's the one. So they can still go to that landing page. But I believe by Saturday afternoon, at the earliest, if not Monday, the new affiliate platform will be live. And then the URL is going to be affiliates.carolfitai.com.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, people, listeners don't have to obviously remember this. This will be in the show notes, but I just checked it there. It's so carolfitai.com/pay-it-forward, all one word, no hyphens, works as well for now. Because this will go live probably in the next few days. It's May the 29th now. And so, yeah, I mean, I suppose if they try that or try what you just said, it'll redirect to the appropriate place, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Cool. Okay, so that's where you can get that. And again, that'll be all on the show notes for this episode. Oh no, this doesn't have an episode number. So just search CAR.O.L and it will come straight up. And just probably a good time to mention, if you are a studio and you're thinking, maybe you've reopened and you're not interested in necessarily selling bikes to end users for their homes, we've got a opportunity in place for you if you want to buy a bike for your studio. Again, on previous podcasts, me and Rahul have spoken about this, me and Tom Toombs. There's a great opportunity to generate revenue and grow your business with a CAR.O.L bike. And CAR.O.L are offering $250 off your purchase and 6 months free software licensing if you use the code HIB. So I just wanted to mention that in case you're listening to this and you're thinking, you want other options to decide on the best fit for your specific business, whether that's adding a bike to studio or selling bikes to end users. And obviously right now it's a great time to be creative and be thinking about other ways to generate revenue, as we really don't know what the future holds for personal training. As I said, I'm optimistic, but like you said, Rahul, there could be a kind of resurgence of the virus, and there might be government intervention to lock areas down again, and hopefully not. But I think we have to be ready for anything, don't we?
Absolutely, but fingers crossed that doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all I had, really. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on while we're on the call, on the podcast?
No, I mean that really does. I was really happy that I got a chance to tell people about the the 2 exercises a week, that when I read that, I mean, I was like, you must be kidding. It really is a significant, I think it's a really significant finding. And I have a feeling that it's going to invite some others to start thinking about how they can build a workout regimen around just 2 exercises a week. So I think that was really cool. I definitely also want to say that we have a new website. So some people who may know about us but haven't been to us recently, check it out. There's some new stuff up there. We've explained some things differently. So some things didn't make sense before, they should do now. And we have, of course, a lot of the research is available now for download. So check it out if you want to know more. Those are the resources. Obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to email us, contact us. We have all the contact information online, and we're obviously very happy to discuss.
Yeah, I love the new website, by the way. I was checking it out earlier today. I think it's great. It's just super modern and just clear, and yeah, it's just I mean, the previous website I thought was pretty good, but it is a definite upgrade. So no, I was impressed by that. And Rahul, what's the best way for listeners to find out more about you?
So if they want to find out about me personally, go to my LinkedIn. If they want to find out more about CAR.O.L, they go to carolfitai.com. And that, like I said, will have everything they want. And by all means, if they want more advanced material, we don't put everything up there just because some of the stuff, I think, is people just kind of get blinded by the lights. If they want more advanced material, they can email us at Carol at carolfitai, and we will get back to them. Or if they want to call us or email us on the links on the website.
Awesome. Yeah. And to find the blog post for this episode, please just go to highintensitybusiness.com and search for CAR.O.L, and it will pop straight up. And, you know, look at the blog post, listen to the other podcasts I mentioned. They'll all be linked in there so you can get a really good feel for the offer and for the product, so you can feel confident about selling it to your customers. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.
Discover how to achieve your health and fitness goals, become a great personal trainer, and build a successful, high-intensity training business. Check out highintensitybusiness.com. highintensitybusiness.com.